Hello and welcome, Maestra. Thank you for joining, Go.
Thanks for having me, Ashif. Great to be here.
Thank you for joining. First off, I want to say thank you for inviting me to New Eden FM, which is the Public Eve Echoes radio show. Am I right?
Yeah, we just rebranded everything on last Sunday following Pantheon's official dissolving, which I made the address right before the radio show. But yeah, it's we've gone from basically being the namesake of that community and where it was and who it was to being a little bit more all inclusive of all of New Eden, where everyone is represented in the name. And it's just it's kind of a new chapter for us. That's how I like to look at it.
Yeah, we had a great time, and I think it's an amazing place for people just to join. Even though if you're not in a corp or like if you're playing alone, just hop in and meet some great people. Have a great time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're updating the tax system so that we can have people who aren't part of any corporation or alliance and they're just like kind of, floating around. We got some people that are like that in New Eden. Rare, but they're like that. You can just come on down and we are going to be making tax for people who aren't they haven't sworn allegiance to anyone. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, we're all friends.
Yes, yes, absolutely, and, that's how we roll. So, I have just recently been adding more and more staff members to the radio server because now we can have all these different staff members. At first, because it was Pantheon Radio, it was, like, powered by Pantheon, so it was only members of Pantheon that were able to be staff members, but now that we're New Eden FM, we can bring in people who just want to be a part of the family, people who just want to, you know, help to build this brand, what we are trying to do. So now we have staff members from No, we have staff members from Happy Bees, we have staff members from BLAP, we have staff members from GenFed. Yeah, it's pretty extensive, really.
It's sure a great mix. Maestra, does your name mean anything?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it is actually the Spanish word for teacher. It's also a title that is given to very skilled musicians or very skilled music professionals.
All right, yeah.
Yeah. For me, it was well. I suppose the easiest thing to do is just like I guess back up and go, well, this is where I came from. I'm from the School of Classical Piano. So that's where I kind of started playing when I was like 10 or something. I've been in music pretty much my entire life, between private studies, being parts of middle school and high school bands. I study music with the Berklee College of Music as a music producer double major, set to graduate on next year, fortunately. And I studied classical composition and orchestral techniques there as well. So that's my minor. So I kind of got the name because I just I everything is music composition for me. I write music and I have to write it down like Beethoven, you know what I mean, in order for it to make sense to me. I don't produce music the same way that my peers do. And so I kind of just got that name because of how I do things and just I guess knowing stuff that my colleagues don't know. So there you go. It's kind of weird to sit there and to talk about it, but that's that's kind of just like culture. And now there's so much more culture behind the name because I have that name now, and it means something to me, and it means something to other people as well.
Yeah, I like it. I had no idea it meant teacher.
Yeah, it's ironic, isn't it? Because I spend all my time like teaching people and like FCing and stuff in the game. Then I turn around and I teach people music in real life.
Yeah,
Um,
you're a
so
teacher.
yeah, yeah. Apparently, I am a teacher. So I used to wonder if maybe it was a little bit arrogant to have the name Maestra as an artist name. And the truth is, the more people I talk to who say, "Wow, you've helped me with this," or "You taught me that," "Wow, I learned this thing from you," "I learned that thing from you." After a while, you kind of go, "You know what? They are kind of right." I mean, I may not deserve the title, but I'm certainly earning it day by day.
Like when you're going through life and at the end, if you have taught people a lot of good stuff, that's kind of good life, right? Instead of just living your life and not being a part in spreading the knowledge to another person.
Correct. That's the reason
Yeah.
why that martial arts teachers, do what they do. That's the reason why music teachers do what they do. They wanna impart their gifts to someone else, and that's very important because your students are the ones who are gonna carry on this legacy. No matter what they do, you were a part of their life at some point. So for every person that I even taught their first scales, every person that I taught how to hold the guitar correct, or how to grip the pick so that it wouldn't slide all over the place, or make sure that they're, connecting with strings and stuff right. For every person that I do that with, that's something I did for them. Whether I help them with something, you know, in the early part of their life, or whether I help them with something a little bit later on when they're trying to figure out what's going on with this? Why doesn't my song work? Why is this not sounding the way that I want it to? And then fix it for them. And then you tell them why you fixed it or what works and why what you did is working. Because now you get out of that thing where you're just selling your services into this thing where you're teaching people why, you know, how to fix this themselves. And a lot of people criticize me for teaching people how to fix something themselves after I fixed it for them and I made money from doing this. And it's really just because what you're really doing is you're creating a bill of trust with that person by teaching them how to fix this so that they don't have to call you for this exact same thing. I'm a person who likes to be honest with others, and I'm a person that I like to also be kinda challenged where if you're gonna come back to me with a different problem or, correction, if you're gonna come back to me with a problem, make sure it's a different problem than the first one, because if you come back to me with the exact same problem as the one that I helped you fix and then told you how to go about fixing it, I will fix it, I will take your money, but I will still be upset because I have to do this for you again.
Isn't it Einstein who said like dumb people do the same things over and over again? I don't know.
Yeah,
I
yeah. The
can't
definition of
remember.
insanity is
Oh
doing
yeah.
the same thing over and over again and accepting or expecting different results.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Perfect.
So, yeah, it's a lot like that, right? It's
Yeah.
this situation where you know that, okay, you are trying to write this piece of music, and that's great. Music is experimental, so you're free to kinda, like, do whatever it is you're going to do with it and so on and so forth, and if you bring it to me and I start to marry it with chords, you'll find out immediately why that melody doesn't work too well. So then we get into something like, "Alright, let me teach you basic chord structure and what keys are." Once I've done that, if you bring me something else that doesn't work, and you ask me, "How can I make this thing work?" I'm gonna get a little bit deeper into the theory because I'm gonna assume that you already know what basic chord structure is. So if you're using something like a sharp or a flat and you really need it in that piece to get the mood and to get the emotional feel that you're looking for out of it, I will tell you which substitution you'll probably need to make and which scale it's from, things like that. So now I'm expecting that if you come back to me with other questions, you already have some general idea and understanding of what chord substitution is and what keys are and how they work. I am charging people for my services, yes, but I'm also trying to teach them to be a little bit more self-reliant as well.
Yeah. You're making the world a better place, like Michael Jackson said.
At least trying to, right? I mean, man in the mirror, right? If
Yes.
it's an interesting thing. I hide behind a mask, quote unquote, if you
That's
can
also
call it
Michael
hiding.
Jackson.
I kinda, right? But at the same time, the interesting thing about that whole thing is that I'm always kind of proud to look in the mirror because I know I didn't cheat anyone. I know that I didn't lie to anyone. I know that I didn't take anything that didn't belong to me from anyone. And and it just feels good, whenever you have clients and you work on something for them or you provide a service, whether it's DJing a venue or working on a piece of music for that person, or heck, even if you're in the game and you're just, teaching people how to avoid getting blapped by a gate camp, you feel pretty good. You know what I mean? Because you shared everything with that person and you gave them this information. And hopefully it'll keep them from losing a billion-esque ship, or, or at bare least, if they lose the ship, at least they will still know how to properly use a secondary dominant.
Yeah. To learn from your mistake, that's very important. So, all right, you are in the Bell Corp, and that is part of Happy Bees.
Yeah, Bell Corp is my corp. It's technically Bell Corp, the clan of Bell. And what we do is, let's put it this way. We do a number of different things because every corporation has their culture. Our culture is that we help take in and train new pilots, and our focus is on PvP. And so the stronger pilots that are in our corporation are PvP pilots. This is what we enjoy doing. We like getting out there and roaming and fighting. And these are going to be the people that you'll see signing up for the CTAs before everyone else, unless real life is getting in the way with them. But we train new pilots. We've been growing our roster of PvP pilots, um, and we do other things which I won't talk about on the podcast. But it's a fantastic little group, really cool crew of people. And since Happy Bees is now Happy Bees and not, Executive Alliance of Pantheon, it means that we're rebuilding. And rebuilding means that I get an opportunity to not only grow my immediate community, but also kind of like grow the military part of things. And I feel like at this point, Bellcorp needs to be at the forefront of that because this is my corporation. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm CEO here. And so if my members aren't exemplifying what we should be doing in PvP and in rebuilding our military and, roaming excellence and just doing all these really cool things, if we're not at the forefront of that, I feel like we're kind of missing out, right? We're not making a very good example for the rest of the members of our alliance.
Yeah, it's a tough job being a CEO. Have you been a CEO since you started playing the game?
Absolutely not. I actually started off playing the game as being just a line pilot. In fact, I was an industry professional in the game. I literally just sat there, and my plan was to come in to Eve Echoes and mine rocks and build stuff and get fat and rich, and that was all I was going to do. And I joined an indie corp early on, called Axe Capital, and we went through a lot of different things, and we ended up joining Happy Bees after the end of the Aquarius Coalition, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So we ended up joining Happy Bees, and we were already good friends with Goog, our Guardians of the Olympus Grail, and we built the Citadel. We literally helped to build the Citadel in Quebec, Olympus. And so when we all moved into nullsec, we were basically living out of passes inside of in nullsec in Quebec on the system Quebec Tech I. And we literally just kind of eventually we decided that we were just going to merge in with Goog because we were basically we were basically friends anyway. I had kind of taken the combat route. I kept all my manufacturing skills because that's my history, right? That's my legacy. That's where I started the game. And looking back on it in hindsight, that's what I was doing even in beta. And so I ended up keeping all of my manufacturing skills, but at the time I dropped all of my mining skills because I was running security for them. So I taught Axe how to fight. We got to K-Back and we were living with Goog. And when people would come into K-Back, Axe were the people that were answering back, switching ships out of mining ships and getting into combat ships and running these people out of our system. When we merged into Goog, everyone in Axe was kind of like, in some way, form, or fashion, a combat pilot. So we were kind of responsible for protecting Goog, who was an all industry corporation at the time. And it just became kind of history from there because now we're all in one corporation. And I joined the military. I joined Pantheon's military. J Factor was a huge influence for me at that point in time. Both he and Stony Sluts were influences for me at that time because I was a huge, and I still am a huge fan of their leadership capabilities on the battlefield. And and so I joined the military during the GHA war, and that whole thing went that way. But I wasn't always a CEO. I was planning on just being a line member, and eventually they made me a the VP, or the vice president of Goog, in charge of PvP. So I was in charge of all of military in Goog before I was even a JFC, or before I think I was either PvP manager or something. All I know is that it just kind of became that as I became FC, I became the person that was running. I was running PvP across all of Goog for us because I was an FC of Pantheon. And
Man.
eventually, when we wanted to do something where we wanted to recruit new members and stuff like that, but we didn't want to bring them directly into Goog, I volunteered to, okay, cool. So let me be the one to go and make the corporation because I want a PvP corp. I want a corporation of people who have a closer mentality to my own because love them or hate them, I have a lot of respect for the members of No Please Stop. Maybe I might not agree with all of the ways that they do things as far as the pirating and stuff like that, but I do have a heavy respect for them in their combat abilities, you know what I mean, and
Oh yeah.
how focused they are and how they're willing to get into ships at almost a moment's notice, and they can get this flash fleet of like 100 people just like that, you know what I mean? And
Yes,
I
yes.
wanted I wanted that for my own corporation. And so that was part of it. I'm like, yeah, we'll train the new pilots, but the ones that stay with me, the ones that want to be a part of my family, those are the ones that are going to stay in Belcorp and become officers. And the ones who stay at a high level and who PvP with me, those are the ones that are going to become my ninja. And that's the way that we kind of did it. We have our own little lore, you know what I mean? Where
Yeah.
basically Belcorp is kind of a company that fronts as being a company that is taking in, and we're training new pilots, and we're doing all the really nice cutesy little things in the foreground, the little ding dong hellos and all the just smiles and everything. And then I have the other section for my clan of ninja, my PvP pilots, who are in another part of the server, and that's where all the assassinations are going on. That's where the kill boards are. That's where the people that are doing all of the OPSEC type stuff for me and posting all the pertinent information, they are over there. You know what I mean? So
Oh yeah.
literally, it's a company that is run by space ninjas, but no one knows it. And until now people know that it's run by space ninjas.
So okay, so Bell Corp. Why Bell Corp?
Oh my goodness. That I'm gonna break this down for super fast and get off the
Yes.
topic. A lot of people know about my sister in the game, as well as my sister in real life, Amy Von Bell. That is my little sister, yes. And she came up with this thing back when we were still in Goo, because we've been playing Eve together since she was like 6, 8 years old, something like that. And that was back when the formal name of the game was Spaceships for us, because she basically would just come up to me and say, "I want to play spaceships with you."
That's cute.
Yeah, I know, right? I know, right? So now, fast forward like 10 years, and she's in college, but now she's kind of my right-hand woman. And she came up with this little thing because we were playing Eve Echoes together. It just suits us better. And her name is Amy Van Bell, and her alt is a Von Bell as well. And so one day, because they got tired of listening to, or she got tired of listening to us say, Mackenzie, Amy, contracts up, because we were doing stuff with Goog. Like whenever we'd have dead spaces and stuff like that, we'd be doing stuff with Goog, and they would have to literally go, Mackenzie, Amy, contracts are up. Okay, cool. So she started saying Bell Corp in the house. Like she started calling us
Ah,
Bell Corp. She called us that. That was like the name of our tag team. Kind of like if you watch WWE, it's like the Usos, right?
yeah.
So she started calling us Bell Corp. I'm like, wait, I'm sorry, what happened? It's like, yeah, this is Bell Corp. I'm like, why? Hold on, why are we being called? Why are we being called something that is after your name? And she said, because number one, you don't have a last name, you don't have the last name, and Kinsey Corp sounds stupid. And so this is and so the name of our tag team, the two of us became Belcorp to Goog. So rather than saying, Mackenzie, Amy contracts are up, whenever we would run together, they would say Belcorp contracts up. And the corporation started referring to us as Belcorp instead of saying you two as individuals. Now we are
Yeah.
one entity. So the
So
name Belcorp came from this. And when we arced off from Goog to create the new corporation, it was the Bell Corporation, and so the name just there it is.
it just stuck. I would, yeah, I must agree that Mac Corp would not be as cool.
Yeah, and I mean, there's nothing better. Like the one thing that you don't want to do, right? If you are a clan of space ninjas, you want to have a shell, like a front, where you are training people, and then you have this hidden wall where you have like your top secret ninjas back there that kill people and stuff like that. The last thing you want to do is have that on the door. So rather than just like naming ourselves the Space Ninjas, we went with Bellcorp because no one thinks twice about that name. You know what I mean?
I had no
You
idea.
just gotta walk on. Exactly. You didn't think twice about it until I told you, and
Yeah,
that's the thing. So people who listen to the podcast will go, "Oh wow, I didn't know that that's what they were doing behind the scenes." Well, that's what we're doing behind the scenes. I
that
don't
is
mind it so
great.
much now telling people that, but all before we were so tight-lipped about it. What are you talking about, space ninjas? We have no idea what you're referring to. And yeah, one of our roles in the corporation is ninja, and the way you get that role is we fly with you, we see what you're doing in PvP, we see if we can trust you. We work with you and stuff like that. And once we see that you are going to be a consistent PvP pilot and you're going to work with us, you're trustworthy and you're willing to use like voice comms and stuff, that's when you become ninja. And when that happens, it opens up all the other stuff. The OPSECs, the specific announcement, the people can see where I post my kiss of death marks, which are like marked targets, specific targets marked for assassination that give people a higher bounty reward whenever they kill them. Our corporation does pay our members to go out and kill. So we're kind of we're kind of setting up something where we're at the forefront of like PvP, and we're doing it consistently. We're not like some corporations where they do it and it's kind of like it's a thing. This weekend we're doing this thing where whenever you kill up to this amount of ISK, this is what you're getting. It's consistent. Every single time my pilots kill a Tech 9 or lower pilot, that's 3% off that kill. Every time they do it, if it's a Kiss of Death mark target, it's twice that bounty, and so on and so forth. And as the corporation gets better and can manage resources better, the rewards that we give are going to go up because we wanted to start at a higher like kill mill value percentage, but obviously a lot of our members were brand new and we were training them from ground zero, so it made more sense to start it off at a lower value since they weren't bringing in that much ISK in terms of like taxes, and most of the time they were out there killing anyway. It made more sense to start at a lower value, and then later on, if we can make it where we're giving 10% off of all kills for normal ships, we can do that. If we want to do 5% for faction ships, we can do this. And anytime I issue the mark of death, where we set those targets red and say these are your targets, kill those specific targets, and it's a double bounty, and you get twice as much.
I really like the Kiss of Death name. If we ever become enemies in the game, I would like a permanent Kiss of Death mark on me. That would be great.
You want me to go and send them to you, huh? Yeah, yeah. So you can destroy a sheath.
Yeah, you get 10%.
Mm.
Also, if I would I be a ninja? Do you think? Would I be
That
good enough?
depends. That depends. I mean, we'd have to fly with you, see how things are rolling, see what your passion is for the job, see if you're how you are on comms and stuff like that. And I mean, we have to be a little bit like that because we do. bring in newcomers, like someone who might just want to join. They might have started the game yesterday, and we'll teach them and we'll play with them. And if they decide that they enjoy like doing industry and they want to rat and stuff all the time, we'll send them to Goog because Goog is based around industry. But we have people whenever they get to a point where they're like, "Ooh, everyone out here is like PvPing. Everyone out here is flying together and shooting people and stuff." I mean, when they come of age and they're on Discord all the time and they understand what we're doing and they can be trusted with more like OPSEC stuff, that's when we set them up over there and they become part of the Ninja Clan.
That is great. So you heard it here that Bell Corp is recruiting.
Yeah, Bell Corp is always recruiting.
Yeah. So yeah, you said you've been in EVE Online then
Yeah, I did off and on. It
for a couple of
was
years.
tumultuous. Yeah, I was one of those players that came in, played for a while, and then backed off for like a year or two, and then came back and everything was different. Got to know the game, played for a while again, and then backed off again.
Yeah, but you still got back. That is what most people say. They play EVE Online for maybe a year, and they quit, and then they get back, and they quit, and they get back.
I think it'll be
There's
the
no
same
game.
story with Echoes.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. There's no other game like it. So, how does a day look in EVE Echoes for you? A gaming day?
Oh dear. Oh dear. You really want to know that
Not
question?
not the whole day, 24 hours, but can you maybe short
No,
it to
of course not.
10 minutes?
It's kind of sort of wake up, hear my Discord pinging on my phone because my iPhone does the do not disturb thing so that no one can bother me before 10 a.m. So I roll out of bed, I look at my phone, I check to make sure that the world isn't on fire. And then after that, I answer my wall of pings, different people who are sending me questions and requesting things from me, or so and so on and so forth. Check all the different leadership channels that I'm a part of to make sure that nobody needed me to answer something for them, or there are no really important questions. Um, and then from there, I kind of do my day job, which to me right now it's a college student job, and it's also a job of being a producer and having to practice every day because I'm a musician. And so I do that while I am answering questions on Discord and making sure that the world isn't on fire. And if I need to log in to do something, I'll log in to do that thing. But then I'll probably just like log out because this is the time of the day that I'm trying to like study and handle other things. Then towards the evening, I will go ahead and get online. And if we're going to roam, I'm going to roam with my corporation. Or if we're going to run story missions in high sec to make some money, we'll do that. If I'm going to sit there and quietly mine or something, I'll do that. That's kind of like what my day looks like in Eve. And during war, everything is just predicated by when CTAs are called, because looking back in hindsight, looking at the Battle of K4, the last major battle we had in Eve Echoes, I got up at 10. I was in fleet by 11 a.m. and we didn't finish the Battle of K4 until like 6 p.m. my time. So we were in fleet for somewhere around 8 hours that day, and it was a huge battle. It was a huge battle. It was a battle that reminded me of EVE Online, when battles could last like for days or even weeks. One battle with FCs taking shifts. One person leaves, the next person comes in. So that's where we're going as far as
Yeah.
Eve Echoes is concerned. That is what the game is becoming. It's a mobile version of Eve, but it is still Eve, and we're still doing the exact same thing. And that's kind of what my day looks like. If it's CTA, that takes precedence, and CTA and answering questions and leadership and stuff like that. But if it's a normal day, then it's kind of like me answering Discord questions while I'm trying to get my day job stuff done. And then towards the evening time, evening night, I'll log in and do stuff with my corporation or whatever. Because home is where the heart is, right?
Oh yeah. So yeah, Eve Echoes is a lot like Eve Online. Depending on what you do in Eve Echoes, you can actually be online all the time because you're needed. So, like, how do you go about finding your targets? As you talked about the kiss of death.
That depends. I mean, Bell Corp isn't a very old corp. We were actually founded roughly 3, maybe 2.5 to 3 months ago, give or take. And so we were actually actively recruiting to get like new pilots because that's where we wanted to start. We wanted to start by taking in new pilots, teaching them, and so on and so forth, like how to play the game, and then determining where they wanted to be. And if they wanted to be PvPers, we kept them and we cultivated them and trained them in that fashion. And so thinking about it, it was a lot different. I made mistakes during the last war because war broke out while we were still building Bell Corp and getting in members. I went from trying to make a home for them and making sure they were comfortable to basically being in the war room 24/7 or being in CTA 24/7. And by the time I was done with those, I was so tired. To I didn't have time to like play with them. And so the students kind of took it upon themselves to learn how to PvP really well. Got this one kid, Darth Maul, and he would go out there to Tama and he would just shoot people and he would kill people in Tama. And then he got Doms, another one of my guys, in on it. And so they were killing people in Tama. And they go out one day and they're just getting kills and they're posting it in TOG chat, or the Olympus Grail, the formal name of the company between Bellcorp and Goog. And they're getting all these kills and they're just like throwing them in there for everyone to see. And we're just laughing. We're laughing. We're just watching them do this. And they're out there and they're killing people. And then they got in another guy, Incest, and they got him in. And now the trio is going around killing people in Tama. Anyone crazy enough to do mission running or crazy enough to try to mine in Tama, they're killing them.
That's cool. I've been in
So
Tama a few times now recently.
yeah, there's a reason why I don't do any PvE stuff in Tama, and there's a good reason why we don't do things in Tama. My you know my ninja students, they go out there to train and they kill people in Tama. They do it for fun. So
Yeah,
I guess that when it comes down to it, one of my biggest regrets is that even though the war was important and being an FC is a highlight of what I do in Eve Echoes, it kind of took a lot of time away from my community, my immediate community. I was barely saying anything on our own Discord because I was always on, Pantheon's Discord.
yeah.
I wasn't really spending that time with them in the game because all the time in the game I was spent fighting Noah and SHH. And yes, I did place the Kiss of Death mark on SHH. So they raked in some nice is killing SHH members. I'll admit it. I did it for a while, but it has such since we have backed out of the war, it has been I removed it. So no one is marked with the Kiss of Death at the moment. And we're going to just take some time and build our little family, go out there and just play together, enjoy each other's company, kill people, and then I guess they'll wait until Mackenzie, gets pissed off at somebody else and issues the kiss of death and then turn them red. So
That sounds so fun.
yeah, I mean, one thing about me is that I respect the Happy Bees standings and stuff like that. But I will say this much, that while I respect Happy Bees standings, and I would never attack anyone who's like blue to us, right? Because
Yeah.
that's just silly. I do not hesitate to set our own standings when it comes to newts and reds. And so because I have to issue these kiss of death marks and my students need to be able to see which targets are the marked targets. We do have our own standing system within Bellcorp. And so we take very careful, we take a high level of caution in Bellcorp to make sure that we're not negatively overriding our alliance standings because we're not shooting blues, right? We don't want to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Kiss of Death targets can only be either newt or red. But when we mark them, it's kind of like if they're red to Happy Bees, they're red to us anyway, but I'm going to set them up as being red because the
Yes.
ninja in our corporation know that they can go to our Diplo tab and look at it, and anything that Mackenzie marked red is a kiss of death mark. So they can see at a glance without having to go to the Discord, who our targets are right now.
That's very good. It's nice you get your own thing going. So, talking about you did mine in the beginning, so how do you pay for your ships today?
Oh, well, you see, I'm still an indie pilot at heart. Like, I spend most of my time doing PvP related stuff these days, but, and because of that, I should say, I don't have to I don't have to really worry too much about the ships because I already have a bunch of Ferox Guardians that I own, and I it's like whenever you would get killed, you have SRP, right? Because Pantheon was giving SRP.
Yeah,
So I didn't really have to worry too much about ISK and about getting new ships. I mean, I wanted an Armageddon 2 for months since that patch dropped. And so I just didn't get one because I was always on the battlefield. So I didn't have the opportunity to do it. But I am still an indie pilot on the other side of things, and it's what I enjoy doing. And people don't know that, but I do some of that stuff on my main character. I'm not an alt person. I don't really like managing a bunch of alts. Some people like that, but me, I'm not a fan of doing that. That's just not the game I enjoy playing. And so everything on Mackenzie is literally on Mackenzie. And so right now Mackenzie is a 554 structure engineer and 553 capital ships parts builder. And and I can build battleships, and I've got like expert level with like I think frigates and something else. The point is I still kept all those skills. And since I build stuff, I went back and I picked up mining skills. So I have the mining skills sitting there, and if I ever need to mine something, I can mine stuff. My sister is 555 in strip mining. She was super patient about that whole thing. And
oh
so
yeah.
materials aren't really a problem. We're both like 555 or 554 in PI. That isn't a problem. So that being said, if we need to if we need to get something done or whatever, we can get it done. It's
Yeah.
not really that big of a deal. We can get ships built. We can go out there. I mean, I'm a Balgorn pilot. She's a Macario pilot. We can get, we can go out there and farm ISK if we need to farm ISK to float things or to build ships or whatever. So to answer the question, where do you get your ships? It's simple. We build them.
You build them.
I build them. If we really want that ship or whatever, we go out, we kill stuff. All the scrap metal is picked up, and I reprocess it because I'm 554 in that. If we need stuff faster, we both get out there and we mine in like coveters, and we will do that. We both own pauses, which are equipped to farm PI, and so we kind of have our own internal. Goog is the indie corporation, and so if we really need something, we can buy it from them on discount because that's the PVE indie arm of our branch of what we are doing. However, I'm basically the one in-house builder. So if we need something like on the fly to be built and we can't afford to wait, I can build most things at least between advanced and expert level proficiency. If we don't have to do it quickly, we can have Goog do it, and it's not a big deal.
And you still don't have an Arma 2.
No, I do not, and it's only because I didn't have time to farm the ISK for it.
But you
I
have
didn't have time.
but you have a Balgorn.
Oh, but I have a Balgorn. But I mean, here's the thing. TOG has a lot of internal systems. Like, between the two corporations, we have a lot of internal systems. Uh, Goog runs buybacks for materials. They will buy back PI and they buy back mining materials. And if I'm not mistaken, they buy them back at 105% of JITA prices. So our members actually make more money selling to the corporation than they do selling it all the way in JITA. Plus, they don't have to take it through nullsec to like sell it and stuff. We have this same thing for selling for ship droppings, modules, and stuff, which are going to get reprocessed into usable materials. So we have that for our PVE and indie pilots, and then PvP pilots can be paid with, for going out and killing people. We have those systems. Additionally, if someone brings us a faction battleship blueprint, we all kind of chip in and help them with materials to build that faction battleship. that's where my Balgorn came from. I literally I literally sat there and collected debris from us doing dead spaces and stuff, and my sister donated debris, and then Weird Bob donated a debris back when he was still in OG because we we got out there and we heard that one of Weird Bob's roams was like in UEXO, and so we wanted to go and fight him. And so we rally up our fleet and decided that we were going to go and fight Weird Bob. And I had just finished putting all the trimmings on my brand new cur, and I wanted to test this fit and I wanted to fight in it so bad. And I knew that, okay, number one, I'm an FC, so I should probably not be in a faction ship doing this. And number two, I should not be in a faction frigate doing this. But I went out there in my little faction frigate, and guess what? I got primaried, right? And so obviously I got primaried off the field, and we won the battle against them on that gate. So we won the battle, and we wiped their fleet, but I lost the cur. And
Yeah.
so one of my corporation members picked up the wreck, and it had a debris in it. Now at the time, the way that curs were being calculated, the debris from the cur was worth more than the IP to restore the cur. So I had
Oh.
the debris, plus I had the cur, and the debris made up the 22nd part I needed for the research. And then the guy who has 555 blood raider research in our corporation did the experimented and did the invention process, and it was a success. So
Oh,
that's where my
perfect.
Belgorn blueprint came from, and then the corporation helped me build it. That's how I got it.
That's good. That was lucky.
It was crazy, and I mean, my sister's Macario. I kind of just it was kind of the same story, only I bought her blueprint. So
Yeah. How do you think Eve Echoes runs today? We recently got the capital ships. So how do you feel about capitals, and how do you feel about Eve Echoes in general right now?
well, I mean, with Eve, I would say that we none of us would spend so much of our time and energy playing this game if we didn't love it, right? When we were in the middle of like peace times and everything, and I was basically playing Total War every night because I love military strategy type stuff. It's kind of something I've really kind of gotten into, and I really enjoy doing RTS type stuff. So I was doing that because we didn't have a war, and then we got a war, and things kind of snowballed. And as far as the game is concerned, I love the game, right? The game really inspired a lot of stuff. It inspired for me. It kind of created the story of Maestra, like the actual story that I'm working on, literary wise, and it's done a whole lot of good in my life as a game. However, there are also some glaring things, and you notice those deficiencies when you're doing things like fleet command, and you're under you're commanding like 3 to 400 pilots, and you're dealing with black screens and stuff like that. And this was the thing that kind of made the last war such a an unpleasant experience. It was just you'd get on grid, and you've got all these pilots here, and you don't know if you're going to black screen. And
Yeah.
this was just the hardest part about it. I lost 2 ships during the battle that we lost K4 because of black screens, because of disconnects. And so they are saying that they are going to be rolling out um updates on tomorrow for they're going to be rolling out updates tomorrow for fixing those glaring issues. And I just feel like it's too little too late, right? Because I mean, this war is over, and Happy Bees is going to be kind of like on the mend for a little while we rebuild our community and get our military back up and rolling and stuff like that. And so we're in a spot where it's like this is coming a little bit too late. You know what I mean? It's a
Yeah.
welcome change, and I hope that it fixes the black screen issues because I mean it's only going to be a matter of time before I'm back on somebody's battlefield. Um, and that's kind of what makes my corporation special too, right? We want to fight. So eventually, as we grow in our numbers, as we grow in our activity, I mean, the guys in my in my corporation are already asking for personalized SRP, to give you an idea. Like,
Yeah.
that's what they want. They want me to make an SRP system that's exclusive to Bell Corp. So that makes me feel really good, but I also know that because master fleet battles is a thing and it's gonna be a thing, we need to have more optimization. So capital ships, to the thing that you were asking me about, I think that it's gonna be great to the extent of how they implement them. I was not too excited about what I saw in the test, but we were testing under, extraneous circumstances. We
Yeah.
were testing where carriers were in there fighting dreadnoughts, and that's a bad matchup. A carrier is already always gonna get whipped by a dreadnought because they're sub-capital, you know,
Yeah.
capital ships.
Yeah.
And not only that, but I don't even know if the carriers, which the reason why I even wanted a carrier on my team was because they have ship bays in EVE Online that allows them to carry assembled ships
Yeah.
so that
And
if
remote repping too.
yeah. Well, I mean, the remote repping, they kinda got rid of that, right? They
Yeah.
got rid of that when 4-star auxiliaries came out,
Yeah.
but carriers, their main thing on the battlefield was being a support ship and of course, being a deterrent for sub-capital ships. And and also to basically have a couple of ships in there, so if your Logi pilot loses a ship, they have another ship right there. This was great, and I don't even know if we're gonna get that in Eve Echoes, to be honest. I'm hoping we get them because I always think to myself, like, it's just something's missing. I mean, what's an aircraft carrier that doesn't carry aircrafts?
That is true. And there is, as you say, they've missed stuff. And I was bringing up the remote repping. We had that on carriers before, and then they released the Fox auxiliary. Then they removed it from the capitals, and now we're getting the capitals to Eve Echoes, but we don't have the Fox auxiliary. So I don't know. It's backwards. Also, the game don't have enough to do for people, and when stuff happens that we can do, for example, big fleet wars, we get a black screen.
That was the
So
pain. That was the
so
pain of it.
really, what to do? We lost so many people that played the game. I hope we can get them back. As I always say, I try to do all I can to get in touch with Joseph, to get in touch with the community, with people, to understand that this game is going to be something else here in the future. But at times it's hard to see when they release content like capital ships, which no one asked for. I mean, it's cool, but it's not really what we need.
It's I agree with you, and I watched the last video that you posted. I think you posted maybe 2 more since then, but the one that you posted, like, last week before the show, where you were offering advice about, like, how to help industry
Oh
and
yeah.
how to fix some of these other issues, and I was like, "Wow," I really hope that they get this. And when we did the radio show, I told people, go and thumbs up that video because we need to give it as many boosts as possible because and it doesn't matter if you um agree with all of Ashif's videos. This is good stuff, and this is stuff that we all want, right? And I agree with you. Capital ships are nice, but if they're poorly implemented, I mean, all you're really doing is you're going to number one, no one is going to bring a capital ship unless it's a big battle, right? You're not going to undock that thing all the time. Some people rat it in carriers. I agree. That's
Yeah.
very true. They're great ratting ships. But I feel like right now it's just people are not going to you're not gonna for fleet battles, you're not gonna undock a capital ship for every single fleet. Some people might, maybe, I guess, but I mean, that's not what I would do as the person in charge of military for Happy Bees. I would look at the situation, look at what our opponents have, and then make the decision whether to bring capitals or not. What you would want to do, you would want to bring, a Sinocero ship.
Oh
You
yeah.
want to bring a beacon ship with you. That way, if you do need the carriers, you can get one, you know what I mean? You can
Yeah.
get one in, but you need to get on the battlefield, see what's going on, and then determine whether you want to fill those carriers. Um, and that's the that's the big thing, right? So it's situational. You're not going to go and travel 40 jumps with your fleet with a carrier or a dreadnought following you. You're going to get to the battlefield, assess what's out there, and then make the call whether you want to, beacon in capital ships.
Yeah.
And and so I feel like it's a big part of the game, but it's also kind of sort of a small part of the game, right?
Yeah,
So
it is. Yeah.
and that's the big thing. Big part of the game, but also small part of the game. And
Yeah.
so is it really, really something that we want in exchange for game stability? Fixing the glaring issues with our industry, fixing some of the other problems. I mean, we needed the translation feature. I'm so glad that that's in there. I mean, if I want to, I can
Yeah.
join a Russian corp if I want. I can
Oh
do
yeah.
this now, and it'll be fine because if I want to, I can join anyone I want, and if they're all talking in Spanish or something, I just, hit the little button and there you go. I can see what they're saying, get in on the conversation and vice versa. I think that that's really great. That's a quality of life change that I'm more excited for that than the capital ships,
Oh yeah.
you know?
Definitely. This is like I'm just getting happy when I hear that stuff. Like when they do stuff that really helps us. That is so much more than a bigger ship. Even though, of course, I want to have the bigger ship, but just to be able to talk to people, I see some people type to me in Chinese, and I do understand some of it because it's not in Chinese, but I don't understand what they mean, and it'd be like, "Hey, Sheev," but in Chinese, so they say something else, and I cannot understand it, and like stuff like that. It has to take a shorter amount of time to fix that than to implement like capital ships.
Right. And I
Yeah,
mean, I don't really know because obviously I'm not a computer programmer. I'm a musician and a music artist. I think that part of the reason is that they are using a lot of like coding, and they're using a lot of the they're using a lot of the materials from like EVE Online, and I'm wondering if the reason why we're having so many problems that we're having is due to like incomplete code or something. Because they were testing out these capital ships this whole time, and realistically speaking, I mean, what if the code was just not complete? And if the code isn't complete, the game's not going to work right. So it's hard to tell exactly what the issue was, right? We can't tell which of these is our issue, which is the main issue. And
yeah,
and 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 it's kind of like, it's kind of maddening only because like in my case, I enjoy being a community manager, right? I love doing it, but I also love fleet command. I love getting out there. I love, the tactics involved in it. I loved doing all those things. But I can't do those things because, when I get out there on the battlefield, I'm like dreading black screening. You know what I mean? That
yeah,
sucks. That sucks. And so, what do I want more? Do I want capital ships, or do I want a more stable battleground so that when me and my opponents are fighting, we can have a real, a real battle and see who really has the dominant fleet? And I would say I would rather the latter because it's just it's a great game, but it needs to work. It needs to always work. It needs to be that I don't have to worry about getting in there. And many of our pilots, the reason why Pantheon lost as fast as they did is because many of our pilots wanted to burn themselves out on these defenses. And realistically speaking, why were we doing that? Why are we doing this when we know the game isn't going to allow for us to have these massive fleet battles? Does it suck? Yeah. Yeah, it does. It sucks 100%. 100%. But I mean, it's just it is what it is, right? And
yeah.
so I'm just hoping that when they roll this out with the capital ships, that number one, carriers are actually aircraft carriers. Holy cow. I'm not even gonna be flying it myself, right? Because as an FC, I would not fly a capital ship in an FC unless it was
That
a
would be
capital
hard.
battle. Not necessarily. If it's a capital battle, then yeah, you fly a dreadnought or something, right?
Yeah, of
Um,
course,
but
if it's all
but
capital.
but if it's all capital, then you do this, right? But if it is not an all capital battle, you're thinking, I would rather just like FC from like a Guardian or something, a little less inconspicuous,
Yeah.
than a capital ship, and just have capital ships behind me. And so for me, as for capital pilots, my sister is gonna be the pilot for us. You know what I mean? With the for the carrier. And the main thing I was like, Amy, if we get these bays, yeah, let's do it. We get bays to carry them. We're carrying straight up Logi and Guardians. I just want Logi and Guardians in it. And so when I get blapped, if I get primary off the field, you will have a ship for me waiting right there, and I can get back in the game. That's why, that's what I want a carrier on the field for, right? So
Yeah. Yeah,
so
I
I'm just
understand.
waiting to see what they do. I'm waiting to see because they haven't really talked anything about whether carriers are going to have that feature. They haven't said no, they're not going to have that feature, and they haven't said yes, they do have that feature. And we've been asking them this same question about whether they have this feature or not.
Yeah, I talked to a friend recently and we talked about haulers. Most of the haulers has less space than interceptors have, and it's not that big of a difference between interceptor to a bad hauler. And then we checked like the humpback, and that was even worse. And those ships are huge, and the little interceptors still have more room. And then we look at the carriers; they don't have much space either. So like, what is everything?
A
Like it's
frigate
a
can carry more than a carrier in that bay.
yeah, that is so weird. I mean, it has to be somewhat logical, right? It's not World of Warcraft when you can have infinite deep pockets. This is like a big ship. This is a kilometer ship. And are you telling me that like 1,000 people really should fly that? And you have all these bays and beds and you have all the storage for stuff, and you actually don't have storage to put in a couple of boxes? You know, like what
Yeah.
is everything? Is it just engine? I don't know. It's just
I don't
weird.
really understand it. Like, I don't
Yeah,
understand some of the mechanics, some of the choices that they've made for this game, and it just doesn't make sense to me. And this is why I love the game. I love the game, but I don't understand some of the choices. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna wait and see what happens tomorrow when we get the release. As of,
yeah.
doing this podcast, it's tomorrow. We'll be getting this patch. And I'm gonna wait and see what happens and what we get with these carriers and with these dreadnoughts, just to see if they're worth the billions of ISK that are gonna be required to produce these ships. And that's where I'm gonna kinda go, "Okay, well, this is cool," or, "Okay, this isn't cool." And then there's a guy um, he's been collecting capital parts for a month and something now, one of those tycoons in the game.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that in a couple weeks or so, he'll probably have his carrier, and then I can ask him to test some of this stuff out for me.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm gonna know about it. I'm gonna know what's going on with it. I'm gonna know what we have and what we don't have before we get there. But I will say that if carriers cannot, at bare least, fulfill the functions that they fulfill, the major functions, because if they're just like big drone boats that are great for taking out frigates and taking out like cruisers and stuff like that, that's
A
kind of good to
battleship
an
too.
extent. But I mean, that's a little lackluster. You know,
Yes,
if
yes.
they've got that capabilities, plus they're really good for being, backline command ships, and you can go there and get a ship if you get blown up, then yes, it's worth the money. It's worth it, It's worth it to field them when you go out there, and to put them at risk, because if they get blown up, I mean, they're only worth 20% IP insurance value, so
Oh yeah.
you're still gonna be out a lot of ISK, every time
Yep.
that one of
Yep.
those things gets blown up. So these are the things that I have to think about, and right now I am head of Happy Bees military, so I have to make these decisions, and some of our pilots are going to be working on building carriers and dreadnoughts, and best believe they're going to want to bring those to the battlefield, and I have got to be the one to make the decisions on whether we're going to fill these things or not during a battle. You know what I mean? It
I
was
know.
different when we were Pantheon, but now I've got to make these decisions for Happy Bees, and it's got to be an informed decision based off of what makes sense concerning what the ships can do and if it's worth it to field them. Because people ask, why did we stop fielding nightmares? And they've requested answers from me about why we stopped fielding nightmares. But the reason why we stopped fielding nightmares is because it became obvious that the cost to get a nightmare back was not worth it after they buffed the guardianships.
Yeah.
And a Drake can now do what a nightmare does at the same efficiency, even though it might not have the same EHP.
Yeah. Yeah. It's as you say, it's not really thought through. And putting a carrier into battle, I would say, it would be always a good idea. But they did implement this special activation button that when you activate it, you do more damage, you can hit everything, you lock everything faster, and whatever it does, it also makes so that you cannot be remote repped. So you have to tank a fleet yourself because you're gonna get primed if you're flying a carrier.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
and
They're
and
gonna go after you.
and the fight is going to be like, okay, so we start with battleships and then someone brings in carriers because they want to wipe everything out. So the other team will then jump in their dreadnoughts to kill the carriers. Right? It's gonna be who wanna wait the longest for this fight to like call for the backup.
Well, yeah, I mean, traditionally, before carriers were the way that they were in EVE Online, they were basically being used as support ships. So they would put extra large reppers on the carriers because they were a
Yeah,
place where you could get a new ship, you know what I mean? You might not have, you could only put a few battleships in there. It wasn't a whole lot, but it was still better than nothing, right? So if you lost a ship, you can get in the carrier, or you can have the ship, spit out of the carrier, get into the ship, and then, and there you go. Um, we had that. Um, and in addition to that, they also did pretty good job as a as a pretty decent command ship. So they were giving buffs and they were healing other ships and they were replacing a small fraction of the ships that fell in battle. And then in addition to that, they were also, you know, attacking some of these smaller ships to keep the smaller ships under control. Being a carrier pilot was a lot of fun. You know what I mean? It was a lot of
yeah,
button
yeah,
pushing, yes,
yeah.
but
Flew
that
one.
was a lot of fun. You know what I mean? I never got to do it myself, but I watched people's videos of what they were doing playing carrier pilots, and it looked like a lot of fun. And I feel like even though you didn't, there was no way they were going to make it where you had to push that many buttons in Eve Echoes. I feel like if it's not even a faithful recreation of the fun that carriers used to be able to have, it's not going to be anything. Because when Force Auxiliaries were released, carriers no longer had the healing abilities, but they were still fun because you had all the other stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Managing a ship bay and, and being able to give buffs to your fleet and being able to seek and destroy some of these smaller subcapital ships. And that's what made it fun to do those things, you know what I mean? To know you have a log or you have ships, assembled ships in your hangar waiting for a pilot who needs them so you can drop them for that pilot. But it's going to be left a lot to be desired to see how they handle this. And if they poorly implement the carriers, what are you going to do when motherships drop? Assuming you even bring motherships here, right? Because they have Titans on the docket, but the biggest ship in New Eden is the Titan and the mothership. And the mothership is a huge aircraft carrier where people can get spare ships.
oh
So,
yes,
that's where my mind is. It's kind of like I love the game. I think that it's great. I think that, I have great hope for it and stuff like that. When the anniversary event dropped, I spent a ton of money on the game, so, me and many of my Corp members are probably covered up until, like, in Dual Omega until, like, mid next year or something like that, and it was an investment, and I don't regret it, right? Because I enjoy the game, I enjoy the community. I just hope that the game makes sense in a year. You know what I mean? I hope it
Yeah.
makes sense because if they make bad design choices, it's not going to make sense anymore. Like an aircraft carrier that can't carry anything, or, hauling ships that aren't getting their full use because delivery missions suck and don't really do anything. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to
Yeah.
take those. So I just, I just feel like it can be a great game. It's got plenty of promise and plenty of hope, but the devs are looking at the big picture, which they're looking at a picture where are we going to be in a year from now, where after they've implemented this, they've got this roadmap idea of what they want to do. But
Yes.
me and everyone else in the community, that are heavily involved in it and involved in like politics and involved in fleet command and we're in these massive battles, we're looking at, well, where's this game going to be in a year if players quit because the game doesn't make sense?
That's true. What would your vision of Ivecos be in the future in terms of, do you think we will get the super carriers or the motherships, as you say, and the titans? Is that what's gonna be the big changes in the future, or do you think that they will now start focusing on getting back the people and getting us the small stuff?
Um, that's really hard to say, right? Because even though I like the devs and I think that the fact that they're so in touch with the community is a great thing and stuff, um, it's clear that they're paying attention to us, right? Because if you remember that whole thing that happened with StarCats a couple months ago when they moved out of OK theme and they set their timers during maintenance time and the Citadel in Yaw kept on rehealing itself before we
Yeah.
could even take a shot at it, right? And they investigated over the course of 2 weeks and when they looked at the situation, right after it happened the second time, they were like, "Oh, no, we're fixing this." So they're definitely paying attention to us. I would tell anyone, the devs are paying attention. When Joseph made that announcement, he made it, like, literally within a half an hour to an hour after that thing happened. So
Yeah, but that was an issue, right?
that was an issue,
It was a
but
game
black screens are
issue.
an issue too. Black screening is an
That is
issue too,
true. That
though,
that is
you
true.
know? And look at how long
That's
it's
a good
taken.
one.
I mean, an entire coalition fell while we were dealing with black screen issues. And we have no way of knowing if the coalition would have survived if it had not been that players got tired of coming to battles where they were black screening all the time. You know what I mean? So literally,
Oh yeah.
we don't know how big of an impact that had on the game. Am I upset about the coalition in the fall? To an extent, yeah, kind of, because I become friends with these people over a very long period of time, and now we're all over the place now.
Yeah.
That does break my heart. However, as an EVE Online veteran, I know that empires rise and they fall. Eventually, it doesn't matter how powerful your coalition is, somebody's going to come around and they're going to break it. And
Yeah.
you're going to start to see all the internal problems that are in your organization come out when you start to lose, and that is what happens. It is the story of what happened with Golden Horde. It's the story of what has happened with very many coalitions. And at the end of the day, the only thing that holds a coalition or even an alliance together are the individual corporations. That's really it. That's why it's so important for us to have that relationship with our community in our immediate alliances and coalitions. You asked me about the future of this game. I think that if the game makes sense and stuff that kind of works, you know, oh boy, this is a wormhole, isn't it?
Yes.
If the game makes sense and we are like trying to we're looking at carriers and we're seeing, well, carriers are truly faithful recreations of what they are in EVE Online, then yeah, the game will do well. If we can have a 1,000-player battle or an 800-player battle where if tie-dye is needed, it actually kicks in, then yes, we're gonna have a good game. If we can have a game where, maybe drones, for example, which are considered to be little ships and are literally eating up so much resource when you're out there on a battlefield and everyone's using drone swarms and you start to black screen because of all these ships. Then, it'll survive, it'll do well. But I feel like there are a lot of problems in the game, and so it's too soon to imagine whether or not the game is going to thrive in the future. The only thing that I would hope, and it's something that I've talked to, many of us have talked to the members of No Please Stop. I talk to Colt kind of often, actually. I know that Mama Saurus Rex, the leader of Gen Feds, she has reached out and she's talked to Tahini as well. And I even I talk to Immortal Rage. We do talk to each other, right? Which is important.
Yeah,
And one thing that we have been trying to kind of say is that it's fine if you guys win, right? But you have to be very careful about pushing community members' buttons, because you can win a battle, but if you start to go a little bit too far and you start to demand people to do this and demand people to do that, what you have to remember is that these people are playing a video game that they can walk away from at any time. Some people, some of our members, they don't talk that much. They will talk in corporation and they will interact with their corporation members, but you never hear them in alliance chat. You have some people that fleet up and they will get on comms and stuff, but they never say anything. They just come in, they do the battle, they enjoy a battle, they fly back with you, they log off, they say thanks for fleet, and then they drop. You never hear their voices. You never actually hear from them. And one day, those people just stop logging into the game, and you wonder why they stop logging into the game. I guess the point that I'm trying to make is that I feel like we got to bring sportsmanship back into this game.
oh yeah,
It's the reason why New Eden Radio is so important to me. I'm trying to foster a place where we can be one big Eve community despite whatever we're warring over in the game, and understand that we're all just people, we're playing a game, and ultimately we care about one another. You know what I mean? As
of course.
gamers, as one gaming community. Because if we lose that, I mean, what's going to keep people from hitting the I quit button when the next line of bugs comes out? Who knows? I mean, we might turn the game on tomorrow and the game gets patched and you can't find a mining belt anywhere.
That's
Because the
true.
game glitched
Yeah,
out. Anything can happen. But the only thing that's going to keep these people from walking out the door at that point in time is their community, is how much fun they can have in this game with the people. And if we run our enemies out of this game, we won't have anyone to fight. If we run our friends out of this game, we won't have anyone to laugh with and to have fun with. It's just, and so we got to be real careful. I respect the fact that no, they're pirates. This is what they do, and I'm not even mad at them. Like when they were doing some of that stuff, I mean, it was upsetting, right? Because we were on the other
yeah.
end of it, but I wasn't mad at them. I literally told Delandria, "You guys are pirates. I didn't expect anything else." However, some of the stuff that did happen, I feel like that's going to endanger the game. So while I would never tell them, you guys can't be pirates, I know actually think that it's fun. I mean, I would probably join them and become a pirate, but unfortunately, I have to be this really nice person all the time, and I would suck at being a pirate. So I'm sorry, Colt. But being a pirate is one thing and everything, but just remember that if we run everybody out of the game, we're not going to have anyone to plunder. you know.
Yeah, I agree. Though pirates are pirates, right? I mean, there should be some evil people around there. If you feel they're too evil, then just get on like New Eden FM and talk to them. They're not evil outside the game. It's just the role they play in the game to make the game more alive. So this has been long enough. Thank you so much, Maestra, for joining me on my Who Is podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate being here. Thanks so much for inviting me today. I think that we had a pretty good talk, and you found out stuffs, right? You say this. You found out stuffs that I don't tell everyone else.
Yeah, I did find out stuff, even before and after. So I wish you and your sister all the luck in Eve Echoes and of course with your music career.
Very much appreciate it. I mean, I hope to see you one day if I'm on tour in Sweden. Yes.
Oh, that would be cool.
Oh my gosh,
You
we should
just
hang
ping
out.
me and I would be that. Yes, yes.
No,
I
I'm
buy
gonna
you
ping
beer.
you. I don't drink, but I will still come to the bar with you and hang out.
Oh, that's cool. Then I don't drink either. That's fine.
Okay. Okay. We're,
Or maybe
we're
I
on the
do.
same page at least, right?
I think I still take a beer. I don't know. All
Hey,
right.
look, I'm good with that. I mean, just get me a club soda.
That would be great. That would be great. So you take
Awesome.
care and bye bye.
Take care of yourself, Ashif.